Hey everybody, Jim Sammons here, the Kayak Fishing Show live, as always, brought to you by all of our great sponsors, Jackson Kayak, Seagar, NRS, Yak Attack, Siegler Reels, a band of anglers. I mean, all these great people who've been with us for so many years that I should have had scrolling across the bottom, but apparently I got sidetracked. There they are. There's our sponsors, scrolling across the bottom. And again, we appreciate them for supporting us for all these years. If you are new to the show, every Tuesday we air older episodes of the Kayak Fishing Show. I've been trying to air them in order, but I'm missing some. I was actually missing some episodes from last season. This is actually, today's is episode 2 from season 10. I don't have season 1. So I do have my old producer on the hunt. He said he would look for him, see if he could find him for me, and shoot him over to me because I'm missing almost half of the episodes from this season. So where they went, who knows? But this episode was from, I want to say 2017 or 2018. I don't remember. Terrible memory. But we were in Louisiana at PAC Kayak Rentals with my good buddy Jameson Redding. We had the Blue Sky Boatworks, which are super fun to fish off of, and just a good time. Now, I asked Jameson if he could make it today. He just got back from Panama. I actually spoke to him a little bit ago to get his report from Panama, and all good. They had a good trip and some pretty cool stuff coming down the pipe from Jackson Kayak. But Jameson, unfortunately, was on the road and he's not going to be able to join me today. So I see there is a couple of comments. Oh, hey, Gene Wilson, thanks for joining me. Liam, watching on Kayak Fishing Tales. So again, if you are new to this, we air on the Kayak Fishing Show Facebook page, the Kayak Fishing Show group page, as well as Kayak Fishing Tales, our YouTube channel. I often will suggest people subscribe to our YouTube channel, Kayak Fishing Tales. Sometimes you're a little bit more apt to be notified of when we're going live than you are from Facebook. Facebook doesn't like to share us too much sometimes. So, so what helps us is if you share it with your friends. So before we get to the episode today, yeah, I mean, I haven't been able to do much. I've been working on re-rigging up my Blue Sky. I've got a new torpedo coming for it. I put the new transducer mount on it. I've got the Bimini, which I'll be putting together and shooting a video on how to do that. I removed the original paddle holder rod holders because it kind of gets in the way to me. And with the new parts from Yak Attack, I'm able to, I like their paddle holder a little bit better, and I can put a rod holder on top of that. So that's kind of what I've been up to. I just got a package actually right before the show started. I mean, literally, I was like 1 minute away and this box arrived. So I figured I'd open it up, see what we got. It's what I think it is, and it is. I don't just kayak. I do have a boat, and on the boat, I like to wear deck boots. I always had one style, and then last year I went to the Grundens, and the Grundens didn't quite fit me as well. I had seen the Sims boots, and I've got some other Sims wading boots that I really liked. And so I actually ordered some, and then they discontinued them. And this was a year ago. That's why I ended up getting the Grundens. And then not too long ago, I got an email from Sims saying that they had a new deck boot coming out. So I told my son he could have my Grundens, which I'd only worn a couple of times, and that I would order the Sims. And then I went to the Sims website, and they were gone. It was like, what happened to them? So a few days later, I actually contacted them. They go, oh, they'll be available mid-March. A couple days later, I got another email saying that they were available. So That's what I got, the new Sims deck boots. And like I said, if you're spending time on the water, I don't like to be barefoot on my boat. I like my feet protected. We're throwing big lures and that sort of thing, and it also helps my back to have a little bit more padding. So those are the new Sims deck boots. I don't remember what they were called. Men's Sims Challenger 7-inch deck boot. So I normally got the tall boots and then would fold them down, but they're only making this in a 7-inch. But I was folding them down anyway, so this should work. I will give you a report on how they fit and how they feel. The problem with the Grundens, they were a good quality boot, but the heel on them was very loose. So even though they felt right at the length, they were wide in the heel. And this one looks a little better because it's curved in. So I'm thinking this, when I saw the pictures of it, that it would hold my heel a little bit better because I don't like my heel slipping in there. But looks like a good boot. I'm looking forward to trying them out. I'm not sponsored by them in any way at all. I mean, I ordered those, bought them full price. So just thought I'd share that with you. We have a couple other comments. Kayak Fishing Salerno says hello. How you doing? Where is Salerno? And who else we had? Oh, a Facebook user. I don't know who that is. If you are watching via the Kayak Fishing Show group page, if you don't give it permission, we don't see your name. That's why for me it says Facebook user. Gene Wilson is saying hi Magnus, so I'm guessing that might be Magnus because other people can see it if they're on the group. It's always very confusing. Eric, how you doing? Thanks for joining us. And Pamela Worth says, love our shows. Well, thank you, and hope everybody had a good Valentine's. I did. Hung out with my wife, cooked dinner together at home. Always fun. And Brandon saying hello from North Carolina. Thanks for joining us. I do love the fact that we do get viewers from all over, and I love it when you guys tell me where you're watching from. We get often have viewers from all over the world, and I love to see it. Oh, it is Magnus. How are you, my friend? Have you figured out how to bring me back to Sweden? Magnus and I were talking not too long ago about us coming back to Sweden again. So my biggest problem is literally right now, I'm trying to schedule a spinal injection because of my never-ending back issues and trying to schedule shoulder surgery. So if I can get in for that surgery soon, so I'm going to be out of commission for a couple of months at least, I'm imagining. But thankfully, there's all these pedal boats now. I mean, I'm a paddler. I love paddling, but at least the pedal boats will be able to still get out there. Yes, yeah, Sweden for big pike, and they have big pike up in Sweden in really cool water. I've been to Sweden a couple of times, and we actually love Sweden. I've enjoyed the trips I've had there so much each time. The tournament that they do, the Liska Open tournament is always amazing. And just such a beautiful country, even though it can be a little chillier than I'm used to. It's actually funny is we have it's been like 90 degrees here in San Diego, and today it's cold and rainy. So, but I mean, yesterday it was in the 80s. So, excuse me. Ooh, that looks interesting. The old green screen. So again, today's episode is I'm fishing with making a return trip to Louisiana. Now, again, I don't go back and watch these, before, but my recollection of this trip to Louisiana, and it seems like it's a lot of my trips to Louisiana. Kind of like my trips to Florida, although I've had better luck fishing in Louisiana. Weather. We had insanely high winds on this trip. If I'm not mistaken, this was the trip where I parked my rental car outside of where we were staying, and overnight we come out the next day, and the water was in the parking lot about that much up onto the tires of the rental car. And this was all wind driven water. It was, it makes it tough. You go down there when the conditions are right, and the sight fishing is just amazing. And the Blue Sky that we were on, I mean, is such a great boat for that situation. You can get super skinny. In this episode, we actually Jameson had a Torpedo troller or travel motor on his, and I was using the E drive from Jackson, which unfortunately they are not making. But Torpedo is such a quality product. That's why I'm going to be putting a Torpedo on mine. But it's such a great platform. Jameson literally stands on the cooler on the front of his boat, or even stands on the seat. So, when you can get that high up, it's a huge, huge advantage, particularly when you're having rougher conditions. So it's harder to see. The higher you can get, the better. And so Jameson, of course, had a much better situation being able to stand up on that cooler. I didn't have anything to stand on. But like I said, they're a great boat for that. In those conditions, having the power pole on them as well. But the ideal situation, quite honestly, on that Blue Sky is having dual power poles. Because what happens if you power pole down at the back and you're in the wind, the boat will still pivot around from where you're actually looking. Now, it's not terrible in the Blue Sky because you can just spin the seat around or stand on the back and face the other way. But it's not quite as ideal. So if you can put down 2 power poles, it'll keep it from twisting. But like I said, this is what we did. What I would do a lot of times that I'd force. You can see all those reeds, and this is a picture from. Get out of the way. That is a picture from it. I would use a Werner stand-up paddle for when I was paddling around, and then I could power pole down. I would shove the bow into reeds and then power pole down, and that would keep my boat in position as well. So, like I said, just a super, super fun boat to fish off of. I'm looking forward to having my old one totally re-rigged with new stuff and getting that thing back out on the water. Again, it'll be a boat that I can use once it's powered up because I can't paddle at the moment. So anyway, with no further ado, since I don't have a guest, if you guys do, again, if you have any questions, comments, please bring them up here because I love to answer questions, whether it's about the show, the location, or anything else about kayak fishing in general. I love the comments and I love the conversation. So, but with no further ado, let's get this episode of the Kayak Fishing Show, Season 10, Episode 2. We'll get it rolling, and hopefully I'll find those other episodes soon.
This week on the Kayak Fishing Show, we are at PAC Kayak Rentals in Louisiana. We got the Blue Sky kayaks, and we got power. Stick around. We're chasing redfish, trout, flounder, all kinds of stuff out here, having a great time.
And before anybody says, yeah, that's not a kayak, we admit it's not a kayak. The Blue Sky is not a kayak. But what it is a super fun boat to fish off of. And I will, I've always said, don't tell me how to have fun. And that's all it is. It is a fun boat to fish off of.
I was really stoked to come on a trip with Jameson. I always have a great time fishing with Jameson, but he has been talking about PAC Kayak Rentals down here in Louisiana for a couple of years now.
But I really wanted to introduce him to PAC Kayak Rentals. It's one of my favorite places on earth. I wanted to bring him down and show him the community they built down here specifically for the kayak angler.
So there you go, right there. I didn't even realize this episode was our first time there, because we have been there a couple of times. We went there after they got wiped out by a hurricane, and they've rebuilt, and these guys keep rebuilding. And PAC Kayak Rentals is such a cool operation, and just the nicest people. So if you ever find yourself in Louisiana or looking for a cool trip, give yourself a week, because you're going to have good days of fishing. You just, like I said, we've run into weather, but we always have good days as well. So give yourself a week down there and you would not regret it. Phenomenal fishing. Even bad days, you're getting them.
Jim, you got to come down here. We got to shoot a show here. You got to come down here. I absolutely, it's my favorite place to go. There's nothing like it for sight casting for redfish and black drum and sheep's head. So it just kept bugging me. So I finally like, dude, put it together. Let's do it. Let's go to Louisiana, because I love Louisiana. Just never been to this location.
Yeah, see, normally all this would be nowhere near as flooded. So I think what we're gonna have to do is just work all these pockets with topwater this morning. And then we can kind of work like anywhere where there's current coming through with like chatterbaits or swim baits or whatever. Clarity's not bad. I mean, you could see them if they were shallow, but right now though, it's just so high. I'll go up to this point right here, give you this base.
Just can't do this on a regular kayak.
Little trout. A little better than the ones that are, oh, quick release. Louisiana is just like no other place that I've fished in the country. I mean, the people are so awesome. The nature, just being out here in the marsh, it's so much of it. There's so much marsh, you never know what you're going to see. I've caught 50-inch redfish with their backs 4 or 5 inches out of the water, and that's what keeps me coming back. I mean, a bad day of fishing here is usually what you would consider a good day anywhere else. Can't decide if I should switch and start throwing a chatterbait or if I should keep throwing topwater.
Well, we've been working all these grass areas, had a couple of good blow-ups, just haven't gotten anything to stick so far. So we're just going to continue working around and working pockets, a little top water, a little subsurface. See if we can finally get something to stick. Tell you what, though, fishing in this thing, being able to hold position with the motor and the power pole, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Now you can see that wind.
Oh, there he is. Nice little red. Looks like. This wind is making it very interesting today. My net's getting tangled up. Let's see if I can get this thing in the boat. Hit the chatterbait. Got him. Woo! Finally. These rough conditions, a little bit muddy water, high water. I tried to change it up a little bit, start throwing the chatterbait. I was hoping to get them on top water, but it's almost too rough with the waves over here on this wind blowing side. I'm just trying to hit the pockets in between the grass, and had some bites early, but finally got one to commit. Little slot fish. Get her back in the water and get her on her way. There she goes.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I saw a sheep's head a little bit earlier. Then I hooked a redfish and it came unbuttoned. I was bouncing the dart spin across this hole here, and I got a sheep's head on the dart spin. When I first hooked it, thought it was a sheep's head, but now looking closer at it and hearing it drumming, it might be a juvenile black drum. I'm not really that familiar with these fish, so that's kind of cool though. Get it on the dart spin, another species. I think that's number 16.
Yeah, I continue to fish that dart spin for everything. I've caught so many different species. I'm at over 25 different species of fish on the dart spin. So if you ever want a lure that you can fish in different ways for different species, it is certainly one to look at. And that's the
Jackson
band of
Kayak's
anglers.
Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you by Jackson Kayak, first to innovation. Orion Coolers, never lose your cool. And Ray Marine, simply superior.
This is my, I think, third or fourth trip to Louisiana, and I always enjoy coming here. We've had struggles with weather in the past, but we've also always had really good fishing.
Louisiana has always been one of my favorite places to fish for redfish. There's just so many of them, and a lot of people say they're dumb down here. I think there's just tons of them, more bait, more opportunities to catch fish.
We get here, and the first day is raining and howling wind. And it's like, okay, well, we've dealt with this before. We deal with it every trip. Let's just make the best of it. Let's have a good time. And with Jameson, it's always a good time.
One of my favorite ways to catch redfish is to sight fish for them. And typically you can do that here, but with this high water and the wind, it's pretty much just not going to happen. We're going to have to search the marsh and try to figure out where the fish are holding. And in high water, they can be way back in the grass where you can't even reach them. They're more spread out, and it's a lot more difficult to find fish.
So the wind is really picked up. If I don't put down my power pole or use the motor to hold my position, I'm blowing away like a sail. So we're trying to find areas that we can fish that are a little bit protected. I mean, these weeds are only about 4 feet tall, so they're not blocking a whole lot of wind unless you're up really tight to them. So we're just doing our best to try and fish. Jameson got a couple. I've had a couple of opportunities at fish and missed them, other than the one baby black drum. That's all right. Day one, we'll figure it out. As long as the wind leaves us alone for some of this trip.
Oh, there he is. It's really tough fishing, but it seems to be that they're pushed up against this grass where the wind is keeping everything up against this grass, all the water, oh, he's going on the power pole. Hope he's under it or around it now. Everything seems to be on this side. The baits get pushed this way, so the fish are going to naturally stack up and try to feed. I'm throwing the chatterbait. It's got a little more flash and thump. It seems to be working a little bit. Get the net ready and see if we can't get this fish landed and find another one. Come on in here, big boy. Oh, got him. Woo!
That's a pretty one.
Feels good to finally get some fish in the net. Try to figure them out a little bit for sure. He wanted it. It's down there. Come here, buddy. Chatterbait tipped with a Houdini razor shad right there. Nice little red. Getting back in the water. You going?
They're working up quite the appetite. Burning all these calories.
Yeah. Those motors will make you lazy, I'll tell you that.
Another one. On this wind-blown bank, kind of up in these cuts. Seems to be somewhat of a pattern. Long and lean.
That's pretty redfish. Another species on the dart spin. So we had a pretty fun morning, although battled the wind all day. Now we've got a pretty good storm coming. There's huge clouds with rain going right towards where we need to be. So it's time to pack it in.
So a couple questions here. Chris Reed, any thoughts or experience on the Take 2? I have not used the Take 2, but I have certainly talked to the guys that have. Chris Funk, Jameson, my buddy Will. I mean, all these guys have had experience in the Take 2. All of the feedback I've had is super positive. It's a good tandem. It does very well as a single. So that's always an advantage. If you have a boat that you can convert from a single to a tandem and it carries that weight, a good kind of expedition boat, because you can pile so much stuff on it because it is designed to carry the weight of 2 people, not 1. So though it wasn't made as a fishing boat, it certainly can be converted to a fishing boat very easily. And everything I've heard has been super positive. I personally have not been on one at this point. Steve Meck, watching over at Kayak Fishing Tales. Love my Blue Sky. I have mine set up with a 24-volt trolling motor with spot lock, 5.6 miles per hour. Yeah, a lot of guys do that. Put the spot lock up on the front. I've seen guys with a trolling motor on the back and a trolling motor on the front, or a torpedo on the back and a trolling motor on the front with the spot lock. Of course, the pedal drive, and I'm hearing a lot of really good things about pedal drive right now. You have that option. I like the torpedo and the pedal drive. So if I run out of battery, anything like that, I've still got the pedal drive. So that's kind of why I preferred the idea of a torpedo versus the e-drive, because I can keep my pedal drive in place. The other way I was with, like here, I was putting the e-drive on it and I kept the pedal drive locked down behind me. But yeah, I mean, the Blue Sky is an excellent boat. I mean, and it's great. It does great on the pedal drive, but it's a great boat when you motorize it. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, it makes you lazy, but it sure is fun. Rudy asked if I'm still running the Dragonfly. I was using a Dragonfly in this episode. I do have a Dragonfly that I will use occasionally when I'm traveling. More often than not, I've actually, since you're asking, I use the Raymarine Element. This is a bigger unit, but there's a smaller one as well. This is just quite a couple steps higher up in the chain. The Dragonfly was discontinued, so this is their lower end unit now, but it's a high end unit. I use this one, and then on my boat I have the Axiom. They're very similar, the Axiom and the Element, in functionality, but the reason I go with the Element on the kayak, it's a little bit cheaper, but also it is not a touch screen. And though all the touchscreens say that they work with your wet hands, my experience is in a kayak, it's very wet, and it doesn't work as well with wet hands. So I'd rather have the touchscreen in my boat where it's protected inside the pilot house, and on my kayak where my hands are definitely going to be wetter, I like the Element, and it does pretty much everything the other one does. Magnus, you got the motor mounted where the FD is, right? Yeah, well, see, that's where it is on this one. We were using the e-drive. which was supposed to come out. They had some issues with manufacturing and logistics of everything with that drive, and they decided not to go forward with it. So now it's the pedal drive, and then guys are either putting a trolling motor up on the front, or like I'm going to do is the 1103 Torpedo on the rear. Some guys have set up the 1103 and hooked it into the steering that's on there, so you eliminate your rudder and tie it into the steering of the Blue Sky. What I am doing on mine, if it's going to work, and I do need to play with it, but my thought is to put my 1103 Torpedo in front of the rudder. And so I'll have to kind of cut out the rear deck so it can drop down in between there, or just remove the rear deck. And if any of you guys remember, I have my Torpedoes. I had dual 403s on the end of the pontoons, and then I would steer with the rudder. The problem was they were fixed straight. And the problem with that, the water isn't flowing over the rudder. So it steered like a pig in mud. I mean, it really took a long time to steer. So what I'm going to do is this 1103, I'll have the single 1103, put it on the center line. So it'd be just like the pedal drive. The water is forced over the rudder, and then it should maneuver the way it is supposed to. And I think that'll be a much more efficient setup. So that's my plan, is to put the motor in front of the rudder. So I will still have the full regular rudder controls. The 1103 will be, again, it'll be fixed straight, just like your pedal drive is. But I think that's going to be a much more efficient turning situation. Gene Wilson says Chris Funk has done a number of very helpful videos about the Take Two on his YouTube channel. And his YouTube channel, as I recall, is, I don't know if it's The Feral One or Feral One. But yeah, he's done quite a few videos and still photos and all that with his wife on it. And he's a big fan of that boat. So it's pretty cool. Magnus, any thoughts about front mounting, good and bad? Well, like I said, if you do the front mount, the difference is there's a weight issue, and I'm not going to lie. I wish the pontoons on the Blue Sky had more volume up in the front there, because you are talking adding weight. So it's going to affect it more if it gets sloppy. But the nice thing is again, you can put that spot lock on there. And so if I was going to have a trolling motor with spot lock, I would definitely put that up on the front. So that's kind of how I think of it. It's going to hold your position better than if you have it in back. Because if it's in back, the front of your bow is going to want to wander, where if it's in the front, it's pulling you around. And they have a transom mount. Blue Sky has a transom attachment that you can put up on the front for putting a trolling motor up there. And yes, that would be on the center deck. So you put that transom up there, up on the front, and mount your trolling motor to that. And quite a few guys have done that, and it works really, really well. And again, the spot lock is such a great feature to hold yourself in position. So it is Chris Funk, The Feral One. Thank you so much, Gene, for, I knew you would know. I just knew you would know. So let's get this episode back rolling. And again, bring us any of those questions, and please, please share these with your friends. It really helps.
Power Pole Micro Anchor and Siegler Reels.
We've got a pretty good storm on its way. There's a hurricane kind of moving in towards Florida.
Today is a little different than just about any day I've ever fished down here. The water level
It's
is
pretty much the same as every day.
almost
I
as
fish there.
high as it was when we came down and had to leave because of a tropical storm. It's literally in the parking lot.
Kind of have a window this morning. We figured we'd give it our best go. You can see right now I am drifting by. It doesn't look that windy, but I'm getting pushed by the wind pretty good already. So
we're hoping that the wind's gonna switch around and start blowing from the north and push some of this water out, maybe not be quite as strong as it is right now. But you don't catch fish if you don't go fishing, so we're going fishing. I say we come out and go left in that main channel. We can cut left, and then there's some more pockets and creeks and whatnot. Kind of work our way back a little bit.
So if you notice,
here we go.
I'm not wearing my normal fishing hat.
Yeah, I couldn't do that in a normal kayak.
And that's because
Came out just before the storm, and
I'm just going to pause it for. That's because it was so windy that at some point my hat blew away while we were getting ourselves all geared up out on the deck of the houseboat we were staying on. And I actually found it a couple days later, halfway across the parking lot, because like I said, the water had come up all the way through the parking lot. So it blew out into the water and then ended up all the way across the parking lot. So I did find my hat, but I had to wear my Siegler hat for quite a bit of this episode. Just thought I'd share that with you.
Kind of questioning whether we should go out, and I'm glad we did. Pretty fish. Let's get them back in the water. Boom!
And the wind from the grass came around the corner here. We're just kind of working these edges where we've got a little bit of lee in the wind from the grass, and got them on the top water. I love watching them blow up on the top water. They got some seriously sharp teeth, so you got to be careful when you lip them, and I don't really do this with the bigger fish, but let's get him back in the water. All right. Jim's got one, I got one. Let's see if we can find some more.
The cool thing about fishing with Jameson, he's a pretty analytical fisherman. I mean, he really thinks about what's going to be working, where to go. He has fished here quite a bit. He's got out his Google Maps satellite image and figuring out where we should go.
Look on the map a little bit more and see if I can't find another spot that looks like this.
Maybe every couple of years I'll get to go fish for redfish. So having a guy who is so passionate about the redfish and this area made a huge difference in our ability to make the best out of what were really pretty brutal conditions.
Well, these overcast conditions, I love throwing topwater, and you can get by with it all day long. The only issue we have really is that finding a place where it's not too choppy to do it. So we're kind of working these leeward banks. Jim just had a blow up, and he is on.
Because we're dealing with a lot of wind, what I've been doing is just like jamming my bow into some weeds and then putting down the power pole, and that'll keep the boat from pivoting so I can fish the direction I want. And there was a nice little pocket up here, made a cast on a topwater, and boom. So just a few seconds after Jameson got a fish, I got one. So I'm glad we decided to come out this morning because we were questioning whether we were going to be able to with this weather. It's not a big red by any means, but
And I will say, having the power pole makes non-fishable days fishable.
beautiful 3-spotted fish. Super fun way to fish. And I mean, in conditions that, you can't really tell, but the wind has really been blowing. So having this combination of the motor, the E-drive on the Blue Sky, and the power pole to lock you in makes it really much more fishable. Good hit. He really wanted it. So, little fish, but super fun. Really fun to fish in this boat. I'm really enjoying this thing. Well, we just had a double hookup. Caught quite a few fish already, and we got a few more hours to fish. Stick around, see how we do. Oh!
So on those, back to the questions on the trolling motor front mounted, on a trip where we returned to Louisiana a couple of years later, Jameson actually had a remote control, spot lock, all that stuff, trolling motor up on the front of his. And he had a huge advantage then because he was actually being able to get up so high. He stood on his seat, but could control his motor from the remote control. So where I think I had the electric Jackson drive there. So I couldn't do anything like that because to control my motor, I would have to bend down and control it by hand. I also had to control my rudder by hand. So having that motor up front with the electronics steering, remote control, huge advantage. He crushed it in tougher, again, every time I go there, it's tough conditions, but every time I go there, we catch a lot of fish. There was another question here. Bear Buchanan said, this is Mr. Bear, Hudson, Florida. What happened to the Kraken and when are new episodes coming on TV? Thank you. Bear, thanks for joining us, man. What happened to the Kraken? Well, the fact is everybody wanted pedal boats. And so the demand for the Kraken wasn't high enough. So just like anything else, if it's not high enough, they're not selling enough of them. It got discontinued, unfortunately. There are still some of them out there, but you would have to search. I would encourage anybody who's interested in the Kraken to tell Jackson you're interested in the Kraken, because there is still the possibility of them doing a run of the boats. I mean, they still have the mold, and we have talked about them doing limited runs, but the demand has to be there. So it might be one of these things where we get enough people say, hey, I want the Kraken, and we do a pre-order, and then we run some of those boats. But, I was very disappointed, but I also understood, if there's not enough people buying the boat, not enough people want to paddle, everybody wants to pedal. And that's what happens, unfortunately. When are new episodes coming on TV? Well, I parted ways with my producer last year and decided to go on my own. And then we had COVID, which stopped all my travel. And so my plan was to begin shooting this spring to air, and taking a full year off and to air next season. Problem is right now I am so up in the air on what I'm going to do. Just be honest. Like I said, I need shoulder surgery. My back is a wreck. I definitely want to keep going. My plan is to, before the shoulder issue came up, I was definitely planning on shooting again this spring. Right now, it's a matter of when I can get the shoulder fixed and how long that takes. So it might be next year. It might be late next year. We'll see. But I'm going to continue doing the social media stuff. I'm going to continue doing shooting locally. But the travel, doing that sort of thing, it might be a year out, unfortunately, just because of the world and my old body. So I hope that answers your question. Lauren Dupree, you put up a link. I don't know what that's for, but is that Chris's link? I don't know. Tell me what you're putting a link there for, there, Lauren. Rudy Yarwood said, could you stand on the Orion on the front deck? Yeah, you'll see in this, and I don't know if we've seen it yet. I don't remember. But Jameson stands on the Orion up in the front quite a bit. Rudy, yes, you love the Kraken. Everybody wants pedals now. Yeah, that's it. Nobody wants to paddle. Nobody wants to learn how to paddle. It's pretty cool, actually. My buddy Kevin Whitley, Kayak Kevin, has recently been doing some actual kayak fishing, paddling instructional videos, real short stuff, how to control your boat. Because I think that's one of the issues is it's so easy to pedal as far as boat control, that sort of, you don't really have anything to learn. Where paddling, there is some techniques that you need to learn. So if you take the time to learn, paddling to me is very advantageous. But yeah. Eric says, I miss my Kraken. Well, why do you miss your Kraken? Did you get rid of your Kraken? You should have kept your Kraken. I know I haven't gotten rid of my Kraken. When they told me they were discontinuing it, I've had people ask to buy mine, and I'm like, no. I got a couple of them, and they're not going anywhere. Because I still want a good paddling boat, and there's just nothing out there that's over, I like long boats. I've got the 15.5s, and I love those things. Yudi says, I have 2 of them now. I see them pop up on Marketplace. Very fast boat. Yeah. There's just not, it is what it is, and it's business is business. And I totally understand Jackson's, even though I wasn't happy about it, I understand Jackson Kayak's reason for discontinuing it. I mean, you got to have sales. We had the same issue way back in the day when I was with Ocean Kayak. They discontinued the Scupper Pro. And all these people complained. It's like, well, you're discontinuing the Scupper Pro. We want the Scupper Pro. It's like, well, are you buying the Scupper Pro? You already have a Scupper Pro and you're complaining, but it's like, if it's not being sold, they've got to discontinue to make room for what people want. And what people seem to want are wide, fat, slow pedal boats. It's just a completely different animal. And I have nothing against pedal boats. Like I said, they certainly have their place, and I'll certainly be using them when I'm dealing with the shoulder issue. And they're certainly wonderful at certain things. So, and just most people just don't want the narrow, fast paddler's boat. It is what it is. Facebook user, and again, if you are coming on here and it shows Facebook user, it is because you are watching on the Kayak Fishing Show group page and you did not give it permission to show your name. But it says the trademark Kayak Kevin paddle flip. It's a bummer that they're discontinuing a lot of the good paddling kayaks. Yeah. It is what it is. Like I said, the market goes a certain way. I've said this before, back in the day with the Scupper Pro, it was 50 pounds maybe. And we used to say, man, this thing is awesome if only it was lighter. And boats have done nothing but gotten bigger and heavier. So, people have said, okay, I don't care so much about the lightness and paddleability. I want big, wide, stable, and pedals. So, the paddle flip. Yeah. I don't know why he does that. You paddle with the back of your paddle. You don't need to flip it. Anyway, when is the new boat they are demoing coming out? This is the boat of which we do not speak, Rudy. But reports are good. Let's just say reports are good from what I'm hearing. But it is, again, it's pedal boat. But everything from people I've talked to is very positive. I haven't had a chance myself, but I think it's looking good. So anyway, let's get this, I think maybe last segment of the show going. After the short commercial break. These are the built-in
Jackson
commercials.
Kayak's Kayak Fishing Show is brought to you by Orion Coolers, Yak Attack, Seaguard, Power Pole Micro Anchor, and Siegler Reels.
Beautiful fish. Found a little pocket up here. Just placed it right in the back of the pocket. One turn, a couple thumps on the tail, and there we go. Oh, look at that pretty fish. This one has just spectacular colors. So look at those beautiful colors. This is just an absolutely gorgeous fish. Definitely that copper penny look to it. And there he goes. What a beautiful fish. That was so cool. So this is a spool tech lure from a band of anglers, and you can see how the leader deploys. Now, once it's done that, there's a little knob here, and you just wind it back in. Right, you just turn the little knob here, and then once you get it into position where it's pulled up there tight, then you just push then you just push the hook back up into its little slot so it stays in. And then on the hook set, it pulls out, and you have a wire leader to protect it from, the rough mouths of these fish. The other cool thing is that they have replaceable tails. Besides having a wire leader and a lighter main leader, one of the coolest things about it is you don't have a big lure in the fish's mouth where they can gain leverage to throw the hook off.
Whew. Finally. Been hard fishing today. This one kind of came up and smacked at it, and I stopped it and it came back on it. Barely got the back hook in its mouth, so I'm going to try to get it in the net as quick as I can here.
So on this trip, we got to use the Blue Sky Boatworks 360 Angler. And for the first time, I got to use the new Flex Drive E-Drive, which is an electric motor that plugs right into the drive unit on this boat. And I got to admit, man, this thing will make you super lazy, but it's super fun.
Still pretty slow day, but I'll take what I can get. Woo, I'll get a trouble hooking my foot.
Unfortunately, that E-Drive is
I've got quite a few rod
production.
holders on here. We pulled in one day and somebody goes, "Why do you have so many rods?" And the straight up answer, I'm lazy. I hate having to retie all the time. The nice thing is Yak Attack makes it so easy to do. With all the gear track on here, I could place the Omega Pro rod holders. I had 3 of them behind my seat set up. So I have 3 rods here ready to go. I have another one, which would be my working rod holder, the one I'm just grabbing the rod and throwing it back in there really quick. So that's a couple of things from Yak Attack made rigging this boat really easy. Though we're fishing pretty shallow water, I still like to have my Raymarine Dragonfly on my boat. The reason being is we know the water temperature, we know the water depth in certain areas, but also if you're out here in this marsh and you get a long way away, it can be kind of disorienting. So I marked in the location where we started, and that way I could always navigate back to it with the GPS system. On the days when it was really windy and we needed that control, needed to slide up into an area, set up and be able to cast, the combination of the E-Drive and the power pole made this an incredibly fishy platform in tough conditions.
Literally stopped working the bait to kind of look around at the wind, and one annihilated it right as I stopped it. And he is feisty. Not that big though. He doesn't know it, and I'm not going to tell him. Where's my net? With everything that we face, weather conditions, high water, ridiculous amounts of wind, and we were able to get on fish, we were able to sight fish. It's always a good time hanging out with Jim, and just what better place to do it than Louisiana. The community down here is unbelievable, and if you ever get a chance to come to Pointe-au-Chien and stay at PAC Kayak Rentals, you really should come check it out.
There's so much water here. There's so many places that you can slide your kayak in and get to water that's not touched by boats. It's really, whether inshore marshes like we're doing on this trip or offshore like we've done out of Venice, there's just so much great fishing down here in Louisiana. It really is a paradise for somebody who is a kayak angler.
These horses are amazing. It's crazy. The things are just always show up back after a hurricane, and they're back. We don't need that. So There is a part 2 to this. We have a great time fishing off the. Because basically we're on a houseboat. We fishing off the back of the houseboat at night. Had a great time doing that. Ended up getting some more big fish. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it was super tough conditions. But and I think Jameson said it earlier. It's just like even when it's tough, we still get fish. It's just a very good fishery, and just the best people. They've been wiped out time and time again by hurricanes, and they just keep rebuilding. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they keep the mindset to keep going, because they've just been wiped out so many times. But they just keep rebuilding, and the community down there is amazing. And of course, there's great food. We've done oysters down there, get a whole bushel of oysters, big sacks of crawfish. I mean, it's just a great place. And I highly recommend PAC Kayak Rentals and getting down to Louisiana. We've also fished down there with Mexican Gulf Fishing Company, where they've taken us offshore. And I mean, the yellowfin tuna is so close to shore, just absolutely amazing. Liam says a pedal Kraken would be a good kayak to make. Yeah, maybe. I think you would have to go bigger than the Kraken as far as width wise, just to accommodate pedals and everything. But yeah, I mean, it would certainly be a faster pedaling boat. I don't know. Magnus, going to sleep in Sweden. Take care, man. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. Gene, thanks for helping and joining and answering some questions there. I do appreciate that. So again, next Tuesday we'll be airing part 2 of this. I hope you can join us. Maybe I can get Jameson to join me on here again, and we can share more memories. Maybe we can get him to give some insight about his trip to Panama, or on what is going on at Jackson Kayak. I hope you are all doing well. If you are going out on the water, please remember, always wear your PFD and keep your paddle right side up. Y'all take care.
I'm going fishing.